Hi, so we're here with Ingrid de Caluwé. Thank you for joining us at the Hague Summit for International Human Rights, and thank you for your wonderful speech. We're just going to ask you a few questions about some pressing issues. So, do you feel that donor countries only provide aid if developing countries fulfill certain conditions? And from that, do you think that unconditional donations risk stopping or slowing down the development of a country rather than supporting it?
Yes, I think we have been providing unconditional aid for 40 years now. And many of the developing countries, they have developed in a certain way, but many of them haven't reached a level where they say, okay, we don't need any development aid anymore. And I think what's very important that in talking about development aid that we are going to provide, that we make some kind of a contract with the recipient countries. Because we have to talk to them on the same level. For 40 years we have been saying, okay, you have a problem, we have a solution, and we are going to do this and that, without really talking to the recipient countries, and without really asking them, what do you really need? And I think it should be a contract, some kind of a contract between a donor country and a recipient country, and see, okay, where can we help each other? Where can we help you with our expertise? And what are you going to do to reach the same goal? And how can we reach the goal together? So that means that there are obligations also, and not only rights of the recipient country, but the same goes for the donor countries. We have rights, but we also have obligations.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Looking at BRIC and MINT countries, they've been in the news quite recently. Some would argue that a number of them are developing economically, but perhaps at the cost of basic human rights. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think that more should be done to protect human rights in rapidly developing economies?
That's a dilemma, and that's also the dilemma I have been talking about. Because if you do a lot to protect human rights, then sometimes there is a very high threshold for our companies to invest in developing countries, because we put so much pressure and so many regulations. We ask them to abide by so many rules and regulations that they refrain from investing. And then people say, well, if we don't invest, then the Chinese come in. For instance, Chinese and the Brazilians come in and they will invest. And they don't care about human rights at all. That's not entirely true. We have seen that many companies from Brazil, from India, from China have been investing in developing countries. But now they try to work together with us and also with the local companies and the local governments. And we see there is a change in their investment policy and also a change in their behavior, and then change also in respecting human rights. So I think instead of telling them, teaching them lessons and telling them you should do this and that, you should abide by certain rules and regulations, we should work together with them. Yeah. I see a development now with Chinese investors that are really looking at corporate social responsibility. So there are developments going on, and I think we should work together and then increase the level for everybody.
In your opinion, how do you think that cultural diplomacy serves as a tool to build bridges and understanding between different cultures in order to help international court to enforce human rights?
Well, I think what comes to my mind immediately is the multi-party initiative that we have in the Dutch Parliament to help women in fragile states and also in developing countries and in countries, for instance, in the North African region and the Middle East region, to help them to participate in politics and help them to participate in state building procedures. So I think what we have been doing is saying, okay, these are your basic human rights and you should observe those rights and regulations. That is not really going to work. I think on different levels, NGOs, parliamentarians, governments, we have to talk, to engage with our counterparts in those countries and see, okay, what problems are you facing? What challenges are you facing? How can we help you? But also, how can you help us? and how can we together bring about some changes. And sometimes we have to learn, as Western countries who always knew what was best for other people, we thought we knew, and we have to understand what their challenges are and how it culturally works also in their countries, and then see how we can work together. So I think cultural diplomacy is very important, to try to understand each other and also to work together.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and once again, thanks for being here at the Hague Summit.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.